Hi, I'm Stuart from Blackmagic Design, and I'm here at NAB to talk about the new Ursa Cine 12K. For us, this is a really special moment because this is everything that we wanted in a camera. There's been a huge amount of development put into this over the last couple of years, and I think for us, aspiring to what can be the ultimate camera, we feel like we've really struck on something here that could be exciting. You're talking about a 12K camera that has a sensor that is a large format sensor, which is probably about 30% bigger than the original 12K sensor. But you've also got a massive 16 stops of dynamic range. So we're now able to work with a huge amount of latitude to really create those filmic looks. So the Ursa Cine 12K has 3 different lens mounts. You have a PL lens mount, you have an EF mount, and you also have an LPL mount. Now the nice thing is with this camera is it has an adjustable lens mount, so you can take off a lens mount and replace it with a secondary lens mount. So let's say that you're working with PL glass today but EF glass tomorrow. All you need to do is detach the lens mount and replace it. That's all pre-shimmed, which means that you don't have to re-shim that every time you put that on. So all of that's been taken into consideration with each of those lens mounts. In addition to that as well, we've also got internal NDs, so 2 stops, 4 stops, 6 stops of ND in there as well. And then to throw in on top of that, what we've then got is a completely new body design. At first sight, it looks similar to the Ursa Mini Pro, but what you'll see is a more all-encompassing body design. The external screen on the left-hand side reads out all of the camera data. So iris control, your ISO levels, your shutter levels, and obviously your time code. This can all be controlled through the buttons that you can see below, along with transport controls. This can also be locked. As you open up, what you will see inside is that we now have the touch screen that we're familiar with, but we also have menu access and we have transport controls again on the inside. The nice thing is with this monitor is that it also turns all the way around. But that's not it for monitoring, because from a monitoring perspective, with this camera, we don't always believe it's just going to be the DOP that needs to see what's going on. So we've created another screen on the other side, which actually covers the assistant director of photography, who can actually now control things like focus through the electronic lens mounts. And you can actually go in here and start to adjust parameters to the camera and what you're doing with the camera, completely independently of that of the record formats and everything that you would typically do on the normal screen. All of this is running Color Science 5, so our latest Color Science. It's all running Blackmagic OS, which means that you get all those beautiful menus, you get all of those options. And it's a Blackmagic RAW camera, so all of it is RAW up to 12K. We're talking around about 80 frames at 12K. You're talking 224 frames per second at 8K and at 4K. And then you have a whole series of other different formats within that 4K, 8K, 9K and 12K spectrum. So we're covering a lot of different resolutions, a lot of different frame rates. And to be able to do that, to be able to get high frame rate and high resolution, what you need is a media to be able to record onto that is fast enough and quick enough to process all that information. So there's a slight change to this in that what we actually have is a module that sits inside the camera using N.2 cards. So this is actually an embedded module that is recording all of that high frame rate, all those high resolutions directly to the module. And then this can be actually removed. You would take the carriage, you would remove the carriage, and this is the media. Inside here is 4 N.2 cards, which is equivalent to 8 terabytes. And this can be placed into a media dock that we have as a separate line product to enable you to read all of that information. But that doesn't always necessarily mean that you have to go and buy that media dock as a separate item to be able to receive that information. We also have a 10 gig Ethernet connection on the back that reads the information directly from those disks, which means that you can actually not only read them, but you can actually delete them. And the power and the speed of this means that you can actually write and read at the same time. So in a DIT workflow, what we can actually be doing is accessing those files directly into DaVinci Resolve, whilst also continuing to acquire footage at the front end of the camera through the sensor. On top, we have 6 gig Wi-Fi with the antennas there at the top. You've also got some audio inputs here, XLR inputs. And what you'll also see is that we've also got additional USB-C sockets on the top. You've got 12 gig SDI connections, which means you can take Ultra HD, high frame rate out of that SDI. And then below we have reference time code in. And then on the back you have the battery mount. Now this battery mount is a B mount. The benefit of B mount being 24 volts means that it can also power additional elements on top of the camera. So powered lenses, it can also power lenses as well. We've also got a Limo and a Fisher power coming from the camera too, which is a standard within Cine. And one of the other great things about this is we've also redesigned our viewfinder that sits on top of the camera. So this is a brand new OLED viewfinder using lockable USB-C, which means that you're getting all of the camera information and the image coming through on that. There are mounting points on the top of the camera on top of the handle. There's also mounting points again on top of the body. Underneath there is multiple mounting points on the bottom. We then have obviously the shoulder mount plate at the bottom, which also comes as a standard. When you actually buy this camera, the list price is $14,995 for the standard setup. Now with that you get a B-mount battery mount on the back. You also get there as well the shoulder mount kit and the rails. You also get with that as well a pelly case for all this to go in. And you also get the media module, which is the 8TB media module, along with an EF mount, as well as a standard PL mount that sits on the camera when you take it out of the box. Just to touch on the pelly case, all this comes in a hard pelly case, which means that to transport this around, you don't have to go and buy an additional bag or additional case. In addition to that, there is also an offer to buy this with the EVF for just over $16,000. So again, that will come all in a pre-made pelly case, all encompassed in a hard case, so that again you can transport that around. I think this camera has the ability to be used in multiple ways, whether or not you're an individual DOP or whether or not you require an assistant DOP. But I think that it's all about giving somebody a tool to achieve the highest possible results. And I think that whether you are independent or whether or not you're working within a crew setup, there's no reason why this camera cannot be considered at the highest possible level. So whether or not, as I say, you want somebody controlling your focus and having this connected to a DIT cart, this really is going to open up a whole lot of doors for us.